Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We have had a couple of apologies today, so I'm therefore seeking nominations for chairman. Yeah.
Thank you. I've got it. Sorry. Thank you for that. Can I propose Councillor Kane at the back there? Helen Kane.
Thank you. Councillor Kane.
Right, good evening members and everybody from the public. My name is Helen Kane and I will be the chairman this evening. Our normal chairman has been taken ill. Unfortunately that happened to the vice chairman, so I need a vice chairman and I will propose Jodie Lucas, if I have a seconder. Lovely. Right, we'll start the meeting with the webcasting introduction. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. Therefore, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting or training purposes. If any public speakers on MS Teams do not wish to have their image captured, they should ensure that their video setting throughout the meeting is turned off and set to audio only. Please also be aware that if technical difficulties interrupt the meeting, they cannot be overcome and may need to adjourn the meeting. Members are reminded to activate your microphones before speaking. Item 2 is advice to public and speakers attending the council, and that is pages 4 to 5, and you have 3 minutes to actually put your thoughts and tell us about your objections or your consent. And strictly, I will be very strictly on 3 minutes though. Please switch on your microphone and switch off when you finish. Okay, item 3, apologies for absence.
We've had apologies from Councillor Heather and Councillor Stocker.
Thank you very much. Item 4, declaration. Oh, I beg your pardon. Mr.
Yeah, I've had
Councillor
apologies from
Parsons.
Councillor Whitbread as well.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see him actually. Not for lateness, but absent. Thank you. Okay. Item 4, declarations of interest. Councillor Bassett.
Thank you. I'm not doing well at this one. Obviously, for item 8, as the applicant is personally known to me and therefore it wouldn't be fair if I was there to judge it. And on item 10, one of my other roles in life is chairman of community transport, and as part of 10 is a section 106 which refers to monies for community transport and provision of bus services. So that must be classified as a pecuniary interest.
It is pecuniary interest.
So I will leave on that one.
You have to, I'm afraid. Okay. Anyone else? No, thank you very much. Okay, item 5 minutes, pages 6 to 7. Members, can we confirm that the minutes are true to that meeting that took place in the 4th of October? Thank you. Item 6, any other business?
No other business.
Okay. Item 7, site visits. I think we had a site visit already. Anyone else proposes for any site visit? No. Thank you very much. So we go straight to the first item. And the first item is EPF stroke 1478 stroke 23 Camps Farm, Hoe Lane, Nazing, Waltham Abbey, EN9 2RG.
Thank you, Chairman. We're not going to go to a presentation on this one, unfortunately. It's come to light that Historic England should have been notified of this application and unfortunately weren't. So to undertake our statutory duty, we do need to notify Historic England before making any decisions on this application. Therefore, the application will have to be deferred to a future meeting. Hopefully we will aim to get it back to the next West Committee. And apologies for this. We have informed speakers. I believe they've chosen to turn up, but just in case. But yeah, we have informed speakers of that. Apologies.
Okay, it is to us members, to you members, that this item has to be deferred. Are we all in agreement, please? Do we have to show hands? No, thank you. Okay, we follow to item 9. I'm sorry? Oh, straight away. Yeah, okay. Okay, I've been informed that we have to move to item 10, which is, you have to, item 10, EPF stroke 260122, land to the south and east of the former Chimes Garden Centre, Nazing, Waltham Abbey, EN10 6RJ. To you.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, we don't have to move straight to item 10, and we are going to come back to item 9, just so people don't worry that we're not discussing that. The reason we've requested item 10 be moved forward slightly is members will no doubt have seen there has been a request from the applicants to defer this application. Hopefully you've seen those letters. The emails went out. They've written some letters to the legal services, the head of planning, and some other people, and they're waiting for responses on those. There's also some FOI requests on that. Obviously, that's not this deferral isn't something that we are suggesting. It is something that's requested by the applicant, in which case we feel it would be best to go to the vote before we go into any presentation or discussion on this item to see if members feel that they should be deferred as requested. So I'll hand back to the chairman to put that forward.
So, back again. I propose that this application has been deferred. Do we have any objections? Are we all in agreement?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we go to our main item now. Shall we bring Councillor Bassett back? Ah. No, you don't need to move anymore. Okay, so item 9, it's EPF /049120, playing field, Waltham Abbey Leisure Centre and Community Centre, 9 Fields, Waltham Abbey, EN9 3AH, pages 31 to 74. I think it's Mrs. Darker? Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. So this item 9 relates to the reserve matter following outline consent for the block of 60 extra care apartments and communal facilities with associated car parking and landscaping. The outstanding reserve matters include the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale of the development on the playing fields at Hill House. The parent application under reference EPF 2207 of 16 approved outline consent for the erection of a health centre building, a 60 independent living older person apartment, buildings with a minimum of 40% of the units being affordable, a leisure centre and swimming pool building, open space including a mini soccer grass pitch for use by under 7-year-olds, footpaths and other ancillary works. The only matters not reserved in that application was the access. The leisure centre with swimming pool has already been constructed and is in use. An additional letter of objection has been received since the publication of the agenda from the Managing Director of Carebase, which runs Ashbrook Court. Concerns raised include that there's been too much time lapsed since the outline consent in 2017. Delivery of apartments should only be permitted if the health facility is also provided. Other points raised are similar to the points raised by objectors on pages 35 to 38 of the agenda. This site is located on the northern side of Hill House playing fields. A walkway separates the site from 36, 48, 49, 61 and 62 Cullings Court. To the east is 35 to 44 Hill House. To the west is 13 to 21 Bickenden Court. The 60 flats will be contained within a H-shaped Part 3-storey, Part 2-storey building located centrally within the site. 30 car parking spaces are provided, 5 of which are disabled access spaces. 16 cycle storage spaces will be provided, and minibus parking spaces also provided on the site. The proposed access is the same as that approved under the outline permission. The original outline permission and attached legal agreement only requires that 40% of the units be affordable. However, the applicant has confirmed that all the units will be affordable. This is 50% will be affordable rent and 50% will be in shared ownership. The affordable rent units will be occupied by older people from the county council's waiting list requiring affordable housing, and the shared ownership units will be sold to qualifying residents with a proportion of ownership retained by Housing 21. Those residents will need to comply with the parameters of the outline plan permission, i.e. be over the age of 55 and receive a minimum of 6 hours of care per week. This provision exceeds the requirements of policy H2 of the local plan and is therefore considered to be a material benefit of the scheme. The ground floor provides 13 one-bed flats and 2 two-bedroom flats. It also provides a hairdressing salon which is open to the general public, communal dining area, communal lounge with acoustic partition walls, administration rooms, kitchen, laundry room, a 26 square metre buggy store, and activity room. The communal spaces are located near the front to activate the elevation facing the road. Other features include a courtyard garden coming off of the dining area. Natural lighting is increased through the provision of windows along the corridors, which will increase daylight and views of external landscaping and other communal areas. The first floor will provide 18 one-bedroom and 2 two-bedroom units. The proposed apartments exceed minimum space standards set out in DM10 and will be built to Category 2 accessible and adaptable home standards in accordance with policy H1. The flats have balconies, patios or terraces with enough space for tables, chairs and plants. Privacy screens are provided between the windows of neighbouring flats which join each other. The second floor will provide 17 one-bedroom units and 5 two-bedroom units. The daylight and sunlight report for within the development found that the proposed design satisfies all the requirements set out in the BRE guide, site layout and planning for daylight and sunlight. Solar panels are proposed for the rooftop. All units will be equipped with mechanical ventilation and heat recovery systems for the removal of heat and moisture from kitchens and washrooms. These features will help improve the energy efficiency of the building. The external landscaped areas include activity lawns, woodland walk, vegetable garden, biodiversity-rich wildflower meadow with wood pile for tiles, ornamental planting, gazebo, sensory garden and 2 ponds. 12 existing trees at the site's eastern boundary are to be retained and 103 new trees are proposed. The proposal will provide a high-quality landscaping scheme which will be multifunctional and which will provide biodiversity net gain and enhance the appearance of this part of Waltham Abbey. This is the elevations. The site has a maximum height of 10.3 metres to the top of the front facade, containing the main entrance of the building, and then reducing to 9.8 metres for the majority of the building, and then reducing further to 6.5 metres high to the top of the 2-storey element of the building. Whilst the 3-storey height is taller than the surrounding context, it remains within the agreed parameters of the outline consent and is therefore considered acceptable. Materials include red-facing brickwork, off-white reconstituted stone copings and bands, slate-coloured concrete hanging tiles, grey steel balustrade and grey aluminium framed fenestration. This slide shows the sections of the building. Section EE cuts through the central section of the building looking westwards. The middle section FF is positioned close to the northern end of the building and looks southward. Section GG cuts through the central section of the building. On your left you will see Cullings Court, and to your right you will see the dwellings within Hill House. A sunlight and daylight study was prepared to determine the impact on neighbours. Whilst all the gardens and windows passed the test, it was found that the northernmost ground floor window at 61 Cullings Court failed to pass the sunlight test, but this was due to the fact that it has its own canopy over this window. The development does not have an additional impact on this window. Had the canopy not been there, the proposal would have passed the BRE guidelines. The impact on neighbours in terms of light is therefore considered acceptable. Neighbouring residential properties in Culling Court have their side elevations facing the proposal site. The western section of the linear block nearest to 48 to 49 Cullings Court is 6.6 metres high to its flat roof and is 12.5 metres away from 49 Cullings Court. The distance increases to 19.6 metres at the second floor level. The nearest upper floor balcony is just 12.4 metres away, but it overlooks a public footpath between 48 and 49 Cullings Court. Further conditions are also recommended to prevent the roof of the first floor area in this location being used as an amenity area and to require privacy screens being provided for balcony areas of units 34, 38, 56 and 59, so that any perceived overlooking is prevented. The nearest balcony to the eastern elevation of this linear arm is about 19 metres away. This is considered sufficient to ensure that the occupiers of 49 and 61 Cullings Court will not be excessively affected in terms of loss of privacy. The northern elevation of the eastern block of the linear block is positioned 19.6 metres away from the side flank of number 61 Cullings Court. This distance is considered sufficient to ensure that the privacy and outlook of this dwelling will not be adversely affected. All other neighbours have a greater distance away from the development and therefore will not be excessively affected in terms of loss of amenity. It's for these reasons and the fact that the number of units has already been approved under the outline consent that officers considered the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale of the proposal to be acceptable. Parking was a major concern raised by objectors. A parking survey and assessment was undertaken on behalf of the applicant to determine the level of parking stress in the vicinity of the site. This slide shows the photos of the parking situation on Hill House at 8:30 and 8:50 on the 24th of February this year. Prior to 8:15, they found that there were several parking spaces available in the vicinity of the development site, including 10 spaces along Hill House and multiple spaces in the shopping parade car park. At 8:25, cars began to arrive for the school drop-off period. Peak occupancy of on-street parking spaces occurred between 8:30 and 8:40, which coincided with the school start time of 8:40. During this period, on-street parking at the southern end of Hill House was limited. However, there was approximately 3 spaces available to the north. Likewise, the shopping parade car park was also full occupancy. A number of cars also were parked along the single yellow line markings near the school entrance to drop off pupils. Some of the parents and guardians were observed to use the leisure centre car park to drop off pupils, but this was a rare occurrence. During short periods in the AM and PM peaks, on-street parking was limited due to parking demand generated by the nearby primary school. However, this was constrained to a 15-minute window in both peak periods and did not coincide with peak parking accumulation of the proposed development. In summary, the site visit demonstrated that there were several on-street parking spaces available in the vicinity of the development site at this time. The evidence presented from the TRIX data and the calculations based on information provided by Housing 21 has also demonstrated that the proposed provision of 30 car parking spaces would be sufficient to accommodate the estimated maximum parking accumulation for the site. However, should the situation ever arise where additional parking would be needed to accommodate any residual off-site parking demand generated by the proposed development, there would be capacity on the surrounding roads and car parks. As such, officers are satisfied that there is sufficient parking capacity to accommodate the proposed development. This is a CGI view of Hill House Road. This is the front elevation. This is a CGI view from the southwest looking towards the site. This reserve matters application was submitted on the 9th of March 2020. Since it was submitted prior to the expiry of the outline permission on the 21st of March 2020, it can still be considered. The outline approval has already given permission to the change of use of the application site area from recreation field to residential accommodation for the elderly. The original permission still protected some 1.58 hectares of that wider site for public open space, which would include a 33 metre by 43 metre mini football pitch. Furthermore, implementation of this proposal would trigger the requirement for an Essex County Council to make a financial contribution of £166,000 and towards a larger pot of £340,000 for applicants of the wider outline scheme to be used on projects identified through the planning pitch strategy in Waltham Abbey and agreed by Sports England. This is a CGI view of the courtyard. It should be noted that there is no formal agreement to allow Abbey Youth Football Club to use this site. Instead, alternative suitable sites include the Town Mead Recreation Grounds and the Larsons Recreation Grounds. Furthermore, housing development approved under reference EPF 1869 of 21 at the Round Hill swimming pool site includes a 3.5 metre wide cycle and pedestrian path which will connect that site to Round Hill's playing fields, allowing it to be utilised. In conclusion, the proposal is consistent with the outline consent and officers consider it to be of good design. It therefore has a recommendation for approval. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Before we come to discuss it between us, we have 2 speakers, and I will actually ask Elizabeth Bloomfield from Pegasus Planning to, on behalf of the applicant, to actually start. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Chair and members. I'm sure that you are aware from the committee report that a significant amount of work has gone into this scheme, and we thank officers for their time and efforts. Housing 21 is a leading not-for-profit provider of affordable accommodation for older people of modest means. It exclusively operates extra care and retirement accommodation in 240 local authority areas, manages over 23,000 properties and provides over 48,000 hours of social care each week. This Reserve Matters application seeks approval of details of layout, scale, appearance and landscaping only. The principle of development of this site to provide 60 independent living units has already been accepted by the outline permission granted in 2017. In our view, the greatest benefit of the proposal is the provision of 60 homes for older people who are in need of accommodation with care and support 24/7, all of which will be an affordable tenure and so provide for those of the lowest affordability means. This is reflected by a letter of support for the application submitted by Essex County Council Adult Social Care Department, which is quoted at paras 4.27 to 4.41 of the committee report. The County Council confirms that Epping Forest has very limited extra care provision, and there is a large shortfall in this type of much-needed specialist housing in the area, demand for which will only increase into the future as the population ages. The County Council identifies the social and economic benefits of extra care accommodation by virtue of a reduction in isolation, loneliness, anxiety and depression, a reduction in visits to GPs and hospitals, and the delaying the onset of frailty. Objections from third parties focus on car parking, highway safety and the loss of the playing field. The loss of the playing field was accepted when the outline planning permission was granted. In doing so, the council secured financial contributions to pay for the provision of alternative pitches elsewhere, in line with the playing pitch strategy agreed by Sport England. As Suki said, for this independent living scheme, £166,000 was secured, alongside further contributions from the Leisure Centre and Health Centre, which altogether total approximately £340,000. We understand the sensitivities around the potential for an increase in vehicular movements and on-street parking. These points are helpfully addressed at para 7.45 onwards in the committee report. Car usage by residents of this type of accommodation is low. Residents are older and will live here because they require care. They are also of modest means, meaning that car ownership is usually not affordable. Car parking demand at 36 other similar schemes has been analysed and suggests the maximum demand for this development will be for 21 spaces at any one time. 30 are proposed. Any residents who do have a car are unlikely to need to travel at rush hour or during school drop-off or pick-up times. Staff movements also take place outside of peak times, as shift patterns are generally 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. The design merits of the scheme have been thoroughly reviewed and tested over many iterations by your design and planning officers, who now endorse the scheme in front of you as contributing positively to the surrounding area. It will be a flagship development for Housing 21. Housing 21 very much hope that you're able to support your officer's recommendation and grant reserve matters approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you. And now could I ask Amanda Ridgewell, please, the objector.
Good evening. I've lived on Ninefields for the last 33 years. I was the chair of Ninefields Residents Association, and I'm now the chair of Waltham Abbey U3A, which is for older people. As such, I have a great understanding of the estate and the people who live there. I understand the history and the development of this scheme. Ninefields is not a community against development nor against retirement homes. We have 11 homes nearby which are underused, and 10 of them have assisted or independent living facility. March 2017, the outline consent, which was granted 60 older people's homes, a health centre, leisure centre with swimming pool, and what we hear very little about, the first is tonight really, open space including mini grass soccer pitch for under 7 to 8 year olds. Our community centre was demolished in favour of the leisure centre. We were promised a community hall and got a community room. We were misled then, and residents are still very angry about that. We accepted the leisure centre now and accept the need for a health centre. What angers us is the false description in the title that this building is a health centre. It's not. Certainly not a health centre for the community, as was granted in 2017. I'm not even sure if it has any medical rooms for the residents. And this further fuels the atmosphere of mistrust of the developer for misleading people and the council if they support them. I support Hill House School with the parking and traffic, and I would like to add to that access for waste management vehicles, emergency vehicles is difficult. And what about large funeral gatherings? Hill House is a dead-end road and it has limited capacity. There is no commitment to public safety or provision for pedestrian crossings to mitigate substantial increased traffic, which will impact people's quality of life. I support Hill House School re the permanent loss of the field amenity. We've held many family events there and there is no like-for-like replacement. Licence or town mead as a replacement is nonsense. Transport is required to access these. There is no parking at one site and the other is 2.5 miles away. The title of this proposal really is a cynical use of misdirection, and this is lowering the objections by the belief that there is a health centre imminent. The siting of this retirement home close to two busy schools in a lively mixed-use estate that can be boisterous and noisy may not appeal to the aspirations of the retiree. It is a concern that this large-scale development will struggle commercially and be sold on or seek repurposed to other uses. In conclusion, this building is extremely contentious to the local community. Ninefields is considered a deprived area and needs the promised health centre. I do question Essex County Council's predicted figures for the elderly health care, as I regularly hear and see health experts concerned about 40 and 50-year-olds presenting with elderly diseases now, suggesting they will not live as long as we will. This development is inappropriate to the needs of Ninefields and I think should be rejected. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for keeping to the time as well. Right. Members. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought when we first saw things for this, going back before the leisure centre was built, you've got the main road going in and here's the leisure centre. Now, I understood the flats were going to be built right over the very back of that big field, but looking at that, it looks like they're, as you come in on the road, right in the front of, unless, because I can't follow half of these maps, how they do them now. And also, where is the medical centre that we're supposed to have been having?
Right.
It just seems to me that it is just like a home with lovely gardens, so I'm not really quite sure about it.
Yes, if you recall, we had 3 authorities about this site. We had the Epping Forest District Council, we had the NHS, and then we had the Essex County. And unfortunately, NHS withdrew from that scheme. So perhaps, I don't know if Suki could actually, or would you
I
like?
don't mind. Suki can come in if you like. Sorry, I've just popped up just for Councillor Lee's benefit here. This was the original submitted sort of indicative site plan with the outline consent. So you can see here, this is the. Oh, where's my count? There you go. So this is the. Oh, I don't think. Is that showing up? Oh, it is. So yeah, so this is the building that we're looking at here. This pink building here is the, or would have been the health centre, which I understand is unlikely to come forward. And obviously the leisure centre, we all know, has been constructed. So no, it was certainly always in this location. Yeah.
I had discussions with a potential GP that was interested, but they said that they didn't have the funding to carry out the works, and that's why they stepped away from it.
Anyone else? Sam Kane?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, we looked at this previously and we refused it, I think quite rightly, primarily on the grounds of scale. It's still one hell of a big building. They've reorganised it, they've moved it away from the nearest residents, and it's in a better position, but it's still a 3-storey building, which is effectively 3.5 stories because the ground it's built on is raised up from the roadway. The car park is still immediately adjacent to the pathway, which means that the car's tyres will be at waist height, exhaust will be at chest height. If you're a grown adult, if you're a child, it'll be right in your face. That's still the case. The outline permission was given in 2017. That's 6 years ago. 6 years ago, which includes a COVID pandemic. And it was through COVID that we really learnt the true value of open spaces in the heart of a community, because people needed to get out. and we're taking away the last of the fully open spaces on that estate. The needs question, I would question, and I would, if I may, just step into the next item, and the next item, which we're not going to listen to now, item 10, where it's effectively for the same thing. It's for adult social care. And on page 89, as part of the argument to say, to refuse that application, the officers are presenting the fact that the housing report that they've received calls for 60 properties, adult social care, across the lifespan of the local plan, which is fine. And they're saying, as a consequence, they don't need it in item 10. But here in this item, they don't present that as the local plan argument. They merely state that it's very limited extra care and we have an urgent need of more. Well, those two statements can't both be right. It can't be adequate in the local plan and an emergency for this application because we're desperately short. We've heard from our representative of the objections that there are indeed 10 other homes in Waltham Abbey, 11 in fact, many of them providing the extra care needed. We have a real need on Ninefields for those open spaces to remain. We could, myself, I could accept the building if it was less imposing and less dominant, but it does completely change the nature of that area. I can't support this, I'm sorry.
We have to take in consideration that when we granted the application, the outline application, it was for 60, yes? So we have to take that in consideration. The building and everything else, so that is a completely different matter. I'll leave it to the officer to have this.
Yeah, no, and I just wanted to actually thank you for that, and I just want to emphasise that we're not looking at a need argument in this case because of that outline consent. You are completely right. In the next item, which we're not discussing, we're saying, I mean, it's a very different item. It's a green belt case, very special circumstance. We're saying there isn't the argument, the need argument, or the need for the extra care in the district, which doesn't outweigh that. We aren't looking at that here because we have an outline consent. Obviously, if this application is refused and a full application came forward, then we would reassess the need as of today. But the principle's been agreed, that outline has been given, so that's why there isn't that case in this instance.
Would you like to come back?
Yeah, if I may, I thank the officer for that. That is helpful. But I come back to the fact that the outline consent was given 6 years ago, and the fact that this application came in, or the previous application came in a matter of days before the outline consent fell by the wayside, just sort of exaggerates the fact that we're looking at an old application. Life has moved on. Things have changed across the 6 years. And as I say, in its current state, I can't support it. I'm sorry.
I have to say that I looked at that report and I was a bit confused because it says that it came through to us because of the local council and one non-resident, and then it's refused. Actually, I was going to be the representative of the council because I was a member of the DMC, and I thought that can't be right. But then it was 2019. A lot have changed since then, and I am a member of the DMC. So I just was wondering that. Has there been a new consultation? Was it a need for a new consultation, or was it not enough time for a new consultation for this application to come back here to us? Perhaps. Yeah.
So that was the consultation response comment, so I put that on the agenda. But I take your point. We did do neighbour consults when the changes were made. But in future, we would consult the parish council again for the updated comments in relation to the latest scheme for the proposal.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Yarrow.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm familiar with the ward. I used to live there. It's the ward that I represent. I just want to make a couple of points. We have many retirement homes in Waltham Abbey. A lot of them are not fully occupied. The road is a dead-end road. You mentioned the football teams and then alternative suitable pitches at the Town Mead. That wouldn't be possible because I've tried to get teams on the Town Mead. Unless you want a really unsuitable time late in the afternoon, that's not going to happen. And I would worry that the field is often in use as well. And I work closely with Hill High School. I just think there's too, on top of what Councillor Kane said, that the size of this building as well, it's taking up the majority of the green space that is actually left on Hill House. So for them reasons altogether, I will not be supporting the application.
Okay. Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chairman. I too have got several issues with this application, largely around the parking. I appreciate the calculations have been done. It is my opinion that I don't agree with them. I think it's optimistic to assume that residents won't take their vehicles out at peak times and assume that not all of them will drive and assume that not all of them will have people visit them, etc., etc. I think there's a lot of assumptions there that kind of lead to a calculation that might not be correct. So first and foremost, there's the parking issue with the building itself. This then spills onto the road. As many people know, that is a dead-end road, as mentioned several times. It's also very difficult to pass, even with the parked cars there. I regularly travel that road back and forth to the sports centre with children and various other trips down there. And when the cars are parked where they are along the road, as was seen in the pictures in the parking survey, the spaces between the cars are usually a passing bay. So two cars will meet and use that space. If that space is being allocated as additional parking or within the calculations, then there will be nowhere to pass other than bumping up the curb, which is what people do at the moment. And when we're talking about dangerous driving, dangerous parking in the close vicinity of a primary school, I just cannot support that whatsoever. I also have a big issue with the loss of the open space. As Councillor Kane has already highlighted, things have changed drastically, and actually if there's any silver lining to the chaos that the pandemic caused, is actually people's appreciation for open space and how important that is to the communities and how critical it is to people's mental health and physical health. And I think that actually, if this application was to be passed, it would have a huge detrimental effect on the whole community, and that's something that we should really take into consideration. My final point is issue around the necessity for this building. As other councillors have already mentioned, the other buildings, the other homes in the local vicinity that are not at full capacity, and I very much understand that it's very easy to say they're not at full capacity now, and if in 10, 20 years' time they're overrun, everyone will say, well, why didn't anything get done 10 years ago in building something? I appreciate that. But if we are going to build more homes and facilitate more older people and a greater proportion of that population requiring health services, the two have to go hand in hand. It has to be the health services to deal with the increased demand. Otherwise, we're just going down a path that is going to lead to a huge burden, maybe 5, 10 years down the line. So for that reason, I won't be able to support this application.
Okay, Councillor Lucas.
Thank you, Chairman. Similar to other Waltham Abbey members, I have many concerns about this application. I look at the report which states that there has been some observations with regards to the car parking and traffic situation. There has not been a full traffic survey carried out. The Town Council has not recently been consulted. And I mean, from somebody similar to Councillor Matthews that uses that road quite regularly, I'm shocked and concerned of the impact that it will have has just been completely dismissed, in my opinion. Obviously, taking into consideration we have to consider the fact that this application did have outline planning consent, and I completely appreciate that. We was in a completely different situation 6 years ago, and also it came with other very good parts of the application which would have been greatly received, and the Leisure Centre being one of them, and it is a really good asset to Waltham Abbey. I think that the fact that the health centre has been removed from the application, obviously I don't know how we sit in terms of when you give outline consent to a full application that includes something that then has part of it taken away. I'm not sure how we sit with that. So if the officer could explain that to me after my points, that would be quite useful. But really, to be honest with you, 60 buildings could be put in on that space a lot better than the size, scale and density of the building that is being proposed. And I think for me, you know, along with the other things that have been mentioned with regards to obviously the loss of the open space, etc., which I appreciate, we did obviously understand that when we accepted the outline planning consent. But for me, I just physically cannot support this application when we're looking at a building like that that's going to have such a negative impact on the residents of Waltham Abbey today. Thank you.
Would you like to answer some of the points? Yeah.
So the first question in regard to why the application is being considered when the health centre hasn't come forward. The community or the leisure centre was its own reserve matters application, and we considered that separately, and that permission has now been implemented. So in a sense, the outline permission has been implemented, and then this is on its own a standalone reserve matters related to the extra care facility on its own. It's now too late for the medical facility to submit an application, but given that this application is still in time, because it was submitted at the prior to the expiry of the application, we can still consider it.
Okay. Yes.
So I just didn't know whether to just come in as well slightly there. I mean, I'll be honest, in hindsight, having some sort of strategic master plan for the outline consent, or at least some sort of phased condition, I think would have been sensible and may have secured actually all of the development, or at least may have had more chance of securing all of the development. Unfortunately, that wasn't put on back in 2017. Forget 2017, I think it was approved. So unfortunately, it is impossible for us to force the health centre to come forward. It isn't a condition. There is no means for us to ensure that that does come forward. As I say, in hindsight, there could have been conditions put on back then, but there weren't. And I just want to actually, while I'm talking, take the opportunity just to, because obviously there's been a lot of discussion, and appreciate members' views, particularly around things like the need, etc. But I just want to remind people that we are looking at the Reserve Matters application here, not the principle of the development, not the loss of the playing fields, not the need for the development. We are purely looking at the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale. So the assessment and the consideration should be focused purely on those matters.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that is exactly what I was going to remind everybody, exactly that, to focus on that. Saying that, in 2019, we actually refused this because of the size of the building, and it went to appeal, and it was dismissed in appeal. So obviously the officer, in the appeal, took consideration and thought that the same as us, that the building is actually too vast or too big, or whatever problems they had. There is a list here, and it was dismissed. So where do we go from that, for example? Can you help us?
Well, as I say, as long as the assessment and any consideration is purely on the appearance, scale, layout.
I would actually propose that we look at that and concentrate on that, because we did that in 2019. And as I said, it went to appeal and it was dismissed. So I would say comments on the appearance of the building, the size of the building, instead of thinking of, you know, the open space. So, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. I know what you're saying there, and I do think that it appears to be too big. But I just want to mention a couple of things that actually aren't on the planning thing, but I think they should all be considered. You're saying that a lot of these homes aren't full. Yes, I know, because they're far too expensive. I mean, the average person, like myself, I couldn't afford to go in any of these places because the money they want for them is ridiculous. So you've got that side of it. Then we had the opportunity to do something in Honey Lane that was turned down because there was no need for these. And then on the other side of Honey Lane, where there is a home already, they've closed it. We do need council ones that the average person can afford to live in, not all these big flashy McCarthy and Stone ones, which are all very nice, if you've got pots of money. So, but aside from that, one minute we're told we need them because we've got all these old people like myself, and then on the other hand we're told no, we don't need them. So, you know, I don't know where we're supposed to go with it, because we're turning one down because we don't need them, then we're told we do, then we're closing one that was a council one, which to me would have been perfect because it would have been affordable. But I think the whole thing looks far too big. So as we've got to talk on that, I won't go on the green belt or loss of spaces, but I just think it's far too imposing, so I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Can you help us on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, the Councillor Lee, the points you raised actually are relevant, because I think it is important for members to obviously bear in mind that this is 100% affordable units. It's quite rare to get affordable extra care provision, you know, older people accommodation. Quite often we do see older people accommodation, you know, as you say, we've got many in Waltham Abbey, we've got them all over the district. Usually they are private developments. We have been successful in some instances in obtaining affordable housing contributions. Usually they're normally off-site contributions. It's very rare to actually get any on-site affordable housing on these. As I say, the outline consent, and that's why it is relevant here, because the outline consent was for 40% or maximum of, or no less than 40% affordable housing within this unit, and obviously what is being proposed is 100% affordable. So I think that is something that members do need to bear in mind. Obviously it doesn't necessarily overcome concerns around design and scale, but it is a material consideration that you should take into account at this stage, because it is different from the outline consent.
Any other comments? Councillor Kane.
Yes, thank you. I was just looking at the appeal decision here. The inspector makes reference to the flood risk SUDs and felt that these policies generally seek to achieve sustainable development and promote high quality design. I just wondered if that has been reflected in the changes. I still feel that we have issues with the scale and mass of the building. I still think we have issues with the layout of the building, with the car park immediately adjacent to the walkway at the back. And I still think we have issues with the impact on the current residents of the estate of having this on their doorstep. So I think those are three areas that we can focus on, which is outside of the outline planning consent. I still think the weight of the outline planning consent, in my mind, is still questionable when it had days to tick over and is now 6.5 years old. Just how much weight we should give to that outline consent, I'll leave to my colleagues to consider.
So no further comments. Well, the officer's recommendation is to approve with conditions, members. So we actually need to take that, and we have to take a vote on that. So approve with conditions as the officers recommend. Any hands in favour of? Against? Unanimous.
Unanimous.
Yes. Right. So where do we go from there? Help.
We need a proposal.
We need a proposal of, yeah, Councillor Kane.
I'd like to propose that we take it to the vote to refuse this application on the grounds of the scale and mass of the proposed building, the adverse impact on residents' amenity, and the positioning of the car parking adjacent to the walkway. Those are my three main.
Can we actually add that there was no recent consultation? No? No. Okay. It was a...
Can I just... Sorry.
Yes, please.
I don't know the answer myself. I'm just going to ask Suki a question. Do we, when we refuse, just to remind members, when we refuse most applications nowadays, we include a reason about the FSAC and the because we don't have measures to secure the mitigation. I'm not too sure what position we're in with this one.
Sorry, so this was included in the original modelling, and therefore it was, because it was included in the modelling, and the outline permission has already been given, this reserve matters application doesn't need to consider this issue.
Of course, yeah. Sorry, thank you for reminding me, Suki. Yeah, we did have that conversation. Yeah, so we don't need that reason for refusal. So yeah, it just says free. Thank you.
Okay. So do we have a seconder for his, Councillor Matthews? Is second that one. So shall we go to the vote now for refusing the application on the grounds that Councillor Kane has actually mentioned? Oh.
Can we not also put on it about the lack of the medical centre or not? No? Right.
No. Shall we go to the vote then, please? Yes, I won't repeat it. I think
Unanimous.
Okay, so this application, members, has been refused on the grounds that we mentioned, and hopefully you come back and do something different to accommodate the needs of the residents. Thank you very much. Okay, exclusion of public and press. No problem at all. So, we close the meeting at 5 minutes to 8. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.